So in this video, I wanted to show you how you can create your own Elementor based custom post type loop. So say for instance, you want a different way to show your blog listings on your blog page on your site, we can do so. Now the way Elementor Pro ships their default post widget, it's not very customizable. So in different scenarios where you may have a design, for instance, already made and you want to customize your blog listings, I'm going to show you how to do that with a plugin called Dynamic Content for Elementor. And I'll put a link in the description below. I'm not affiliated with these guys, but this is actually my favorite Elementor extension. And I've played around with a lot of them, but this is by far and away my favorite one because of all these reasons. And you guys can check this out, and I'll make videos in the future. But I just wanted to show you how we can use this plugin to create something like this. And for that, we'll have to create our own single post loop. And I'll show you how to do so. So let's just right now go to Elementor Pro, your templates, and let's create one. I've already done this a couple times, so you'll see that I have a couple posts. So I'm gonna click on post loop 2. Let's name it post loop 3. And I'm gonna give this a section type. This is the type of template that we're going to use. And this is gonna be added on the archive page. So I'll show you how to add this on the archive page too. So once this loads, I already kind of have an idea of how I'm gonna build it. So I'm gonna add a section, and let's actually make this about 980 width, the content width. And I just want this to be a background of white so that you can see the stuff that we're going to be working with. And so the first thing I'm doing, this is how it's going to look like. The first thing I'm going to do is add another column, and in this column I'm going to add an image. Now this image is going to be dynamic, so I'm going to select the post, dynamic content featured image, and it'll pull in that featured image for that particular post. In this case, we don't see anything because we don't have the preview set up. So if I click on this cog settings on the bottom, I'm gonna click on preview settings, and I'm gonna select what I want to show. So I'm gonna show the post, then I'm just gonna type a post that I have in the database. So it's gonna be this one. I'm gonna apply it in preview. And then we have the first part of our dynamic content being pulled in, right? So this is gonna load. Eventually it'll show the page. And I've already done this a couple times, so I'm just gonna copy over this column, and I'm gonna show you what I've done. Copy over the column, I'm gonna delete that middle column, and then I'm gonna go over all these things. So I dragged in a heading, and then I styled it a little bit, and then instead of adding a title manually, I'm gonna select dynamic tags, and then I'm gonna add the title, because I want it to pull the title of that particular post. You can style it any way you want, in similar ways that you would design a normal page or normal widget. And then I'm gonna do the same thing for everything else. This one is actually gonna pull in the categories. So I actually want to select the dynamic content again. And then I'm gonna click on post terms. And then if I click on post terms again, I can select what type of taxonomy I want, or what type of term I want. In this case, it's not gonna be tags, it's just gonna be categories, and you'll see it populated. The same thing with text editor. I'm gonna add the post excerpt. And then I'm gonna show you how if I click on dynamic tags, I can add the post excerpt, but then if I click on it, I can add a fallback. So in this case, I want to add some lorem ipsum text. So I just copied this, and then I'm going to add this as a fallback. So if your post doesn't have an excerpt, it'll just fall back to this one. And the last thing I'm doing is adding a button, and that button, you can style it whatever way you want, and it just links to the post URL. Same kind of concept here. So I'm going to click on publish. And that is the single post loop that I created. You can get really fancy with this if you want to design it in any way you want, but this is just so that I can illustrate how this all works. Now I am in the archive page. Let me just refresh this so that it can pull the data that I just created, that custom template that I just created. And then if I head to the archive page, this is where I want everything to kind of appear. I'm going to delete this. I'm just going to copy it first, and then I'm going to delete it just in case. And then I'm gonna search for dynamic posts widget here, and that comes from the plugin that we used. So there is a bunch of settings that we can use. You can play around with the post type queries. You can use advanced custom field relationships. If you want something more dynamic, kind of something more complex, we'll go over those in other videos. But for the purpose of this video, I just wanted to select the regular post type. So there's a bunch of different stuff that you can play around with, like I said. But if I want to use that single post template that we just created, I'm going to go ahead and click on this dynamic content on the bottom, and then I'm going to enable template. If you want to switch the design of every odd number of a post, you can enable that second template, and then you can add it here. But we're not going to do that here. I just added that first one, and then I'm going to search for the template name called post loop 3, which is the one that we just created, and it'll pull in the template that we just created, but it looks kind of funky. So let's actually change this. If I click on render, there's a bunch of different ways that you can render this, but I just want the grid masonry so that I can add filters on the top like I had it before. And then I'm going to also add some pagination, whatever you want to call it. And this is obviously in 3, maybe 5 columns. So I want to switch this. I click on grid, and then I'm going to add just 1 column so that we can have the design style that we created here. So we've already added our custom post-like loop. And then if you want to go ahead and play around with all the different styling options or all the different content that you can add to this, you can. It's just a simple way. If you play around with it, it'll be a simple way of kind of learning what everything does. So I'm not going to cover everything in this video, but just for the sake of everything, you can play around with your filters, what type of filters you want, different dynamic content, and you can style everything. Obviously, the style is in the post loop for the majority of all of this, but you can play around with the block styling, which is that main block of every single post, and you can play around with the styling of pagination and filters. So for instance, in the filters, I don't want the color active to be this color. Let's just change it to, I don't know, black or whatever. And then I'm going to click on update. And then if I go to the front end of my site, once it's finished updating and I refresh, you'll know that this is how it looks like. And this is a customized version. You can do so many different things with this particular plugin. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how you create a custom post loop design using Elementor, using dynamic content for Elementor. I think this extension is amazing. So yeah, I hope you guys liked this video. I hope you guys learned something new. And if you found it helpful, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.